This CyCast is provided to you by the Iowa State Letter Winners Club, bridging the gap between legend and legacy by engaging in our past to invest in our future.
Welcome, everyone, to our latest CyCast. And we got a guest here that I've been trying to get on for over 20 years, and it's been kind of hard because he's a busy man. And we got former Iowa State Athletics Director Gene Smith, who was Iowa State AD from 1993 to 2000. And his impact at Iowa State was absolutely amazing. Talking about facility upgrades, amazing coaching hires, and just setting up Iowa State athletics for great success at that time at the turn of the century. And I tell you what, Gene, one more thing to add in there, Iowa State Athletics Hall of Fame inductee. So welcome to the CyCast, Gene.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. I was glad to be on, and obviously I'm excited to be a member of the Hall of Fame. It's just a moving opportunity for me. So, yeah, thank you so much, and let's rock and roll, buddy.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, speaking of the Hall of Fame, obviously, you now join John Cooper and Errol Bruce as people that are inducted into the Iowa State and Ohio State Athletics Hall of Fame, because you last year you were obviously most deserving of the Ohio State Athletics Hall of Fame. How humbled were you when Jamie told you the news?
Oh, I was shocked. I was totally shocked and didn't anticipate that. And I'm still kind of processing the emotional part of it, trying to maintain my cool, and haven't told my wife yet, which I got to do. But it's just a great opportunity, when understanding now that former student athletes vote on the recognition and the induction. It really makes it really special. And when you've been there long ago, like I had, I'm sure some of the athletes were there when I was there. So it really is special.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, Gene, because when you came to Iowa State in 1993. There was no Iowa State Athletics Hall of Fame.
That's right.
It did not exist.
It did not exist.
And I remember vividly, you obviously, as the AD, played a huge role in basically, making sure that we had a place to properly honor our great athletes. And what do you remember of getting, just how that got started, and how you instituted the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of the details. I was so blessed to be surrounded by so many great people. Tom Crushell, who, exactly, extremely well, was, probably a great year. He's a person that I talk to a lot about those type of things. And Joan Bowles, who ran our Cyclone club there, and I think she's still running it there, maybe.
She is, yeah.
She is. And, God bless him, Pete Taylor, who passed away, unfortunately. I was blessed. Elvie Everidge and Elaine Heber. I had people around me that I talked with these things about, and I don't remember the details and how it came up, but that was the team pretty much that helped bring it to life. And they. I was everywhere I've been fortunate to be around great people and work with great people, and I've tried to use all that intellectual knowledge around me, and so they were the ones that actually brought it to life.
Yeah, before you got hired here, Gene, you were the AD at Eastern Michigan,
right?
And you also coached in football. Played football at Notre Dame, so you had obviously a background actually as an athlete in college, and then you had many years of being an AD. When the Iowa State AD job opened, what made you want it?
When I came to interview, it was a different time then, 1993. I was single at the time. I was divorced, and when I came to interview, and I met with the search committee, and Reed Crawford, one of the vice presidents there, contacted me and asked me if I would be interested, and asked me to come and interview. And I met the people in the room. I wasn't certain. I didn't know that a place like Ames, Iowa, would embrace someone like me. I'm a city guy, and obviously a person of color, and so I had these things in the back of my head, and the people were just so genuinely kind. It was a big search committee. I think it was like 15 people
Yeah,
who were
yeah.
crammed in one little room, and but I met the people. They asked just great questions. We had dinner afterwards, and I went away from there saying, I hope I get the offer because the people were so cool. And so anyway, I think it was that interview and meeting the people that pushed me over the edge to say this is the right place for me. And so when I got the offer, I was all over it.
Yeah, well, and we're obviously very fortunate that you did, Gene. And so let's go back to 1993 again,
Oh my God. I didn't
which
know
is
we were going to be hit with the major flood.
yeah. Well, that's true. So that basically happened your first month, right, when you
Oh
got
yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was
yeah,
sandbagging.
that's right. I totally forgot about that. And then we had another flood later, but that was the first
Yeah.
big one.
Yeah.
But can you just sum up to the Iowa State fans that are watching this CyCast, just the facilities of Iowa State at the time? I mean, for crying out loud, the sports information office was a double wide trailer. So just try to sum up what the facility landscape looked like at
Oh
Iowa State when
God.
you took over.
It had a long way to go. There were obviously, Hilton Coliseum and the Binker Golf Course and the stadium, but there were amenities that need to be added to the stadium. And if you have to be really, really good in football in order to, be at the top of the mountain. And so um, football was the one that I really focused on the stadium. And Hilton, needed some office repairs, so we were able to make that happen. But we had a plan for the stadium and started that process. And offices were horrendous for administrators
Hmm.
and the facilities people. Frankly, they were horrendous. And so if you got to make sure you provide the facilities people great opportunities for them to excel. So they weren't where they should be. They should have been. Jamie's taken it to a whole new level, which is beautiful to watch. But we just had a long way to go.
Yeah. Would you say, Gene, that one of your first major goals was to start the fundraising for the Jacobson Athletic Building?
No
Um,
question. Yeah,
yeah,
that was
because
it. That was it. With any organization in any quote any organization, it's great to have everyone under the same roof. And we were kind of split up in different buildings, and having everyone in the same building um, was so important. Having a weight room that was functional next to your athletic training area,
mhm.
so that your trainers and strength coaches can communicate. Um, it just made it so much better for everyone. And then being able to host some activities in the facility.
Yep.
We designed the open environment in order to do that, and so it was also a part of kind of the master plan with the stadium to try and bring some life to the stadium. So yeah, that was my first focus, and then the next one was the suites in the stadium,
Yep.
trying to get those done, and the field and practice fields and things of that nature. But we the donors really stepped up, and I can't thank Dick Jacobson enough. God bless him, but he passed away. But he was phenomenal.
Yeah. What I can tell you, Gene, 30 years, almost 30 years later, that building has stood the test of time, and it still houses our athletic department, and it still looks great, and we can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you, I appreciate it. No, it was having all that intellectual knowledge under one roof made it much easier. Having the formal meetings for all your staff is one
Yep.
thing, but having staff being able to have the informal conversations, I call it water cooler conversations.
Yep.
Um, those things are sometimes more valuable.
Absolutely. when 1993, again is your first year at Iowa State, Gene, and at that time the football stadium was named Cyclone Stadium, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you got caught up right away when
Yeah.
you took the job of the years of trying to rename the stadium. And so you were the AD at the time when in 1997 we officially renamed the stadium Jack Trice Stadium.
Right.
What do you remember about, maybe the couple years leading up to that decision that it finally happened, where it was one of the greatest decisions the school made?
It was so beautiful because it came from the students, Mike.
Yeah.
And the students started the campaign years before my arrival, and they continued it on. They just passed it down through their governance structure, and it was just a beautiful thing to watch as they navigated, the politics, so to speak, to try and encourage people to be supportive. And I decided that I would take a backseat role, just advise and support. So I didn't have to be out front. I just remember having meetings with the students. I remember the students meeting with Martin Jiske, our president at
Yeah.
that particular time. And I wasn't in the meeting, but they told me about the meeting afterwards. And so it was just beautiful to watch. And then, when they decided to, the institution along with the student group decided there needed to be a statue, and we talked about the location of that. I thought at that particular time that location was more than appropriate.
Yep.
And so there was a lot of conversation, but the beauty part again is just the students. They were organized. They had great rationale. They told the story correctly. I had an opportunity to meet George Trice and talk to George about it, and so it was just a beautiful experience.
Yeah, and then obviously, it's very appropriate, and it has been just for our athletics department, it was obviously the proper thing to do, and we can't thank you enough for that. And
Yes.
obviously, Gene, you had a chance to make numerous coaching hires, in your 7-8 years here, and amazing hires that helped Iowa State athletics have outstanding success. And there's a lot of them. And the first one I do want to bring up is Dan McCarney.
Yep.
And obviously, when you got here, our football program was struggling.
Yep.
And I'm assuming it was probably one of their first priorities. And what was the most important thing when you met with Coach McCarney, and like how you thought he was the right guy for the job?
Well, we needed someone that understood our landscape. Obviously, him being from Iowa made it easier from that perspective. But I needed enthusiasm.
Yep.
I needed someone that could recruit. The X's and O's we had to have, but more importantly, we needed a recruiter. At that particular time, it wasn't easy to get recruits to come to Ames, Iowa. We were competing against unbelievable schools to attract recruits.
Yep.
And so I needed someone with great enthusiasm, someone that could frankly recruit, and then someone that would put a great staff together. And Dan was just phenomenal. He had just we all know
Yep.
his enthusiasm was unmatched.
Off the charts.
It was ridiculous. And so I didn't anticipate nor project that, he would be so good in front of groups of Cyclone fans.
Yeah.
And he was energetic beyond what I thought. I knew he would be, but I didn't think he would be at that level. But he recruited some unbelievable talent.
Yeah.
And so I also needed someone that understood that we needed to develop. We weren't going to get the top of the pyramid athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So we needed to identify talent that would develop with us over time. And so that was big. That getting him was huge. And then the staff he put together was great people.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, Gene, you know what a big hole the program was in when he took
Oh yeah,
over. It was not an easy climb. It was going to take some time,
right,
and obviously, sometimes time doesn't work in favor of football coaches.
right.
And I always say one of the greatest decisions you ever made was the decision to stick with Dan McCarney.
Yep.
After some years where maybe most ADs would not have done that. Um, when you look back now, how proud are you that you stayed firm with, where you believe that he was the right guy for the job to turn this around?
I'm extremely proud. And all my hires everywhere, he's one of the exemplars. But I also knew that stability was important for that program. And we needed to build it together. And so the building blocks didn't include me just asking a prospective donor for a commitment. It was him sitting in front of those donors and selling the passion.
Yeah.
Then it was also, just making sure that from a recruiting perspective, he was aligned with all the different things we were trying to do. He needed the resources. The resources were not there when he got there.
Yeah.
And so we needed to put those in place to allow him to get to a point where he can actually excel. And, so I tried to keep it in perspective, tried to be patient, had a great number of confidants around me in the community and elsewhere. But I always felt that he was the right guy to at least get the program to a spot where it was highly competitive. And that needed to be defined for Iowa State at that point in time. What was competitive success in football? And he did that.
Yeah. Well, and, just to kind of continue on Coach McCarney, obviously in 2000, it all came to fruition where, they make their first bowl game in 22 years. They win their first bowl game in school
Right.
history.
Yeah.
School, record tying 9 wins. Now,
Yeah.
you had taken the AD job at Arizona State, but we were playing in Phoenix, and
Yeah.
I recently talked to Coach McCarney, and he kind of teared up of like how special it was that you came out and talked to the team that day. What was your feeling like that day when you're like, oh my
Oh,
gosh, this happened. This is it. We did it.
oh, it was so hard for me. It was so hard because, I wasn't the AD at Iowa State. From that perspective, it was hard.
Yeah.
But from the perspective of, Dan and the staff and the players, and many of the players I knew, most of them. And so it was just a warming feeling, to be able to talk to them and see the staff. And I can't tell you that is one of those moments in my lifetime, in my career, that I still cherish, that opportunity to be in front of them. So it was special. It really
Yeah.
was special.
A couple more coaching hires I want to ask you about, Gene. In 1994, legendary coach Johnny Orr retired,
Yes.
and
It was funny.
yeah, and yeah, you got the full effect of Coach Orr, and now you got to do a really tough one here. You got to find the replacement for Coach Orr, and you get your guy you wanted, but I know it wasn't that easy in Tim Floyd.
No.
I love hearing the story and how that all played out because I think Tim turned you down like 5 times, didn't he?
Oh, yes. I forgot the number of times. It was ridiculous. And, I think I actually have to thank Don Haskins. I think he pushed it over the hump for him.
Okay.
And at that particular time, Gary Thompson, I think, was very helpful. But, yeah, Tim turned us down on multiple occasions. And, I think he finally got it. Of course, we financially, we made a nice deal for him.
Sure.
But I think he finally got that. When you're following somebody like Johnny Orr, you got to be careful. And I think that was maybe in the back of his mind, but it was a great opportunity, and I'm just so glad we were able to convince him. How many times it took, we were able to convince him to be a Cyclone.
Well, he obviously kept Iowa State basketball tradition alive,
Oh,
and he's an Iowa State Hall of Famer too. And
yeah.
The next person I want to bring up is Bill Fenley, and
Oh,
who who is still here at Iowa State and doing
yeah,
everything he's always done, and that's win.
yeah.
What do you remember from convincing Coach Finley to come to Ames?
I have to say it wasn't as difficult as it seemed, but we had a relationship previously. I was at Eastern Michigan, he was at Toledo, and obviously in the Mid American Conference, and so I saw him up close and personal on how he led his program, and he and I talked about the fact that Ames, Iowa, and Iowa for he and his family was just a great spot to try and build a program, and he was perfect for it. He really was, and he really did a good job in the transition because it was a situation where he needed to come in and kind of change the culture, and he did that. But recruiting him was not as difficult as Tim Floyd, but I did have to sell him on. It was a good job. We're going to make the necessary investments for women's basketball to be successful, and he believed in me because he saw what I did at Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, and then you think about that program, Gene. I mean, that was another one that had to climb out of a huge hole.
Oh
And
boy,
yeah, and when you got here, we were probably averaging about 1,000 people for a women's
oh
basketball game,
yes,
maybe less, in Hilton Coliseum. And then, I mean, how rewarding was that for you to
oh
see that place packed? And
oh,
yeah, it was amazing, wasn't it?
it was amazing. It was amazing, and he is so talented in so many different ways, and we were fortunate. We had a heck of a staff. He put together a staff. I mean, Brenda Fries, who's at Maryland,
Yep, yep,
Katie Abrahamson, who I think she at Georgia now, maybe.
yep, Georgia.
Yeah, and he and Latoya, who's still there, I think.
Yep, she is.
Um, yeah, I mean that what a staff that was. They could recruit like there's no tomorrow, and so he and obviously from an X's and O's point of view, uh, he was phenomenal. But they could get players that fit Iowa, and it was really fun to watch. So it was a lot of work to do, but he got it going.
Yeah, I always look back at the 99-2000 athletic season as one of the greatest in Iowa State history, and that was your last year at Iowa State.
Right.
And for the average fan that doesn't know what happened that year,
Oh,
we won two Big 12 titles in men's basketball. We
yeah.
won two Big 12 titles in women's basketball.
Yep.
We won a gymnastics Big 12 title,
Yep.
and the wrestling program got second in the nation. This all
Yes.
happened in a 1 month span.
It was crazy. It was
It was
absolutely crazy.
nuts, wasn't it? And I mean,
Yeah.
I know that was your last year, Gene, but like, how special was that for you?
Oh,
I mean, basically, it was like it just summed up your career at Iowa State, didn't it?
yeah, it did. I remember the celebration in Hilton Coliseum with the men's and women's basketball team.
Yep.
At the same time, it was just phenomenal. And so, when you think about those coaches and the fortunate opportunity I had to work with some great coaches. I mean, Bobby Douglas, who I inherited,
Yep.
was just, he was top of the pyramid. And so for him to take our program to that height was just special. And, people forget, Kel Sanderson was at Iowa State.
Yeah.
and but anyway, it was a capstone of my career, and I look back on it fondly. And but it took a lot of hard work and investment from a lot of different people, and I'm so appreciative of all the Cyclone fans that made the investment to help that program be successful.
And the one thing I remember about that season, Gene, was you really couldn't be there a lot of all those great moments because you were on the NCAA basketball committee at the
I
time, correct?
was. That's
Yeah.
right. That's exactly right.
So you kind of missed a lot of the
I
great
did.
celebrations, didn't you?
I did. I missed some of them, and
Yeah.
it was so funny. I remember I forgot which game that Tim got kicked out of, and I had to. I was on the committee meeting. It was not. It was kind of embarrassing.
Okay,
but,
I got you. Yeah.
but no, it was. I missed a lot of it because I was on the committee, and it was really a blessing.
Yeah, and obviously that men's basketball team made the Elite Eight,
Oh,
and one that's so close to making the Final Four. I know. I'm
yes.
sorry to bring that up, but it was,
No.
and and I remember because I was there, and I remember like we were just right on the cusp, and it was just a
Oh,
great time to be a Cyclone, wasn't it?
yeah. So many great players, and they wanted it so bad. And no, it was a great time to be a Cyclone. It really was.
In the last 20 years, obviously you just retired from Ohio State with an amazing career there. But have you had a chance to kind of check up on how Iowa State has done and the amazing, amazing accomplishments of our AD, Jamie Pollard, of
Oh,
what he's done to this program? Have you ever had a chance to?
oh, sure.
Yeah,
No, I every year I followed it, and I'm still close to many of the donors. We're good friends, and now I'm living in Arizona, and I've had dinner with some of them, and I can't compliment Jamie enough. One, because he and his family chose to stay there. Jamie was offered a number of different jobs, and he chose to stay committed to Iowa State and continue the vision that he has there for the program. And so that's a compliment that speaks to his commitment. And the reality is, Iowa State's enjoyed that stability in its leadership.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
it means a lot. To have a vision and be able to work towards that vision is special. I just watched this video on SciTown
Yeah.
not too long ago and I was just I could see it obviously because I was there, so it was easy for me to understand what he was doing. But that stuff doesn't happen unless you have stability, and he's done a phenomenal job with coaches hires and the vision of the facilities and things of that nature.
Well, Gene, you've enjoyed a almost 40-year career as an athletic director, and now you're retired. How tough was it for you to make the decision to hang it up last year from Ohio State?
Yeah, Mike, it was challenging because I just loved what I did. I was one of those people that actually found a career and not a job,
Yeah,
and so every day was an exciting opportunity for me. But my mentors always told me to hopefully retire on your own terms, retire when you're healthy, retire when you left the place better than you found it. And Sheila and I we talked about it for a few years, and it just seemed like the right time. We didn't have a president at that particular time, so I wanted
yep,
to announce prior to a new president being on board, so it didn't look like there was some friction there.
yep, yep.
But it was time. It was hard, but it was time because I watched a lot of my colleagues over the years at meetings, and they're past their prime.
Yep.
This new world order really requires the young puppies to take over. So I'm really, really appreciative of my opportunity to be, at Iowa State and in some other places as well.
Well, you certainly seem like you're enjoying retirement. We're all happy for you, Gene. And once again, we can't thank you for coming on our sidecast. Last question I want to ask you is, I guess I don't know how many times you've been back to Ames in the last, I guess, 25 years since you left. Um, but how excited are you to come back this fall to,
Oh,
for your Hall of Fame induction and to see the amazing improvements to the facility landscape of the athletic department?
oh, I'm so excited. I'm like so excited to see Ames and to see all the things that's happened in Ames, to see what's happened on the campus and also to see the athletic improvements and facility improvements. So I'm excited. I'm honored and humbled and yeah, I can't wait. I just hope we have good weather. That's all that
Well,
matters.
I can't help you on that one, Gene, as you know, because you've lived here long enough to understand that one. Gene, thanks so much for taking the time
Thank you,
to
Mike.
talk with us. It's so great to catch up with you, and we obviously can't wait for this fall to see you at your Hall of Fame induction. So thank you.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.